It feels like in Canada these days that both in TV and film, our storytelling is getting so much more ambitious and cinematic and traveling around the world. And yet, how do you do that while still, like, are the pressures, the budgetary pressures on all of you, have they gotten any easier? Is it still a grind to reach those goals while you're trying to finish that episode, trying to deliver?
Always. I mean, the budget is never enough. You know?
Yeah.
I mean, essentially.
You hear that?
But it's true. It's always a pressure of time because time is money. And you have 10 minutes at the end of the day to finish your scene, and you're like going like this, but you don't want to rush it. So maybe it's an emotional scene or whatever. But it's always pressure. Always money.
Yeah, and you know, Mean Dreams was actually a small budget film, but it premiered at Cannes.
But it looks so like a $50 million project.
Exactly, and that's the crew.
Yeah.
Right. That was having an incredible cinematographer, Steve Cousins, who worked with Cardinal, and just again hiring the most talented people who are passionate about the vision, and then they can create together something that looks of much greater monetary value, and you can compare it to, say, Hollywood films that might cost 80, and still these smaller films may have even a stronger aesthetic because the team is behind it differently. So we definitely always need more financing. Of course, you always want more time, but at the same time, if you have an incredible team, you can make magic happen.
And out of those challenges come creative solutions.
Always.
Right?
And I hesitate to say this out loud because producers might be listening, but there's always a creative way out of anything. You just have to kind of stop and figure it out. And often, it's better. The solution you might come up with the crew becomes better than what was there.
I just feel, I hope that we're entering into a phase where it's no excuses. You know what I mean? There's great work being generated around the world with far less resources than we have. And even if we all had a little bit more, we'd still be saying, oh, we still don't have enough money, because our jobs are to dream bigger and bigger and bigger and push it. And that we need to be competitive. We need to be competitive on a global scale. So how do you do that? How do you use landscapes and performers and every trick you have to be able to compete with things that are coming out of the US, for us principally? And I think we're showing that we can do it. And I would say to also not be afraid to extend that ability to imagine into all categories. Because I know, you know, for us, we were doing a lot of stunt sequences. And I find with stunts and animals sometimes the knee-jerk reaction is to make it the most complicated thing imaginable. For this sequence, it was like the kids were forming a pyramid. So it was like 4 levels high with 20 kids. And the quote came in to rig it all. And it was something ridiculous. It was like $400,000 because each thing was individually rigged, and there was going to be like 22 cranes. And I'm like, this is insane. And we also needed it to like move in and move out so we could get like a clean plate shot. And in the end, just with some discussion, we're like, let's really figure out what we're talking about here. And in the end, we just built this grid on the back of a truck that we could pull in. It was fully weighted, fully certified. We have engineers that like did it. The kids walked up, latched themselves in. You know, it was all painted green, and it was done like by the end of the day. We still obviously had stunt coordinators and stuff, but at the end of the day, I think it cost us like $10,000 versus something,
There's
crazy.
always creative, I had a thing where we had to do an explosion, It's written in the script, car explodes, a woman goes into the car explodes, and you're like, okay, we got to find a car, we got to make it explode, all these effects. And I said, well, wait a minute, let's do it. We'll have the real car and put a fireball right in front, and I'll do it in the reflection of the window with the guy watching the thing, and that's it. It costs the fireball, and it's way better to do, more poetic, more about the character as opposed to the effect, all that stuff. So,
how much do you ever go off script and want the characters, your actors, to not improv per se, but take it to another level where maybe the script didn't call for it, but it can elevate? Like, how much freedom do you give your actors?
If you're working on a feature, then a lot of that happens. If you're working for TV, for, I won't say who, or networks, they have an approval process, and then they hate you to go off script. You have to have a good reason.
Really?
Well, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Once they sign on to the script, that's like that's the
it's
vibe.
basically you gotta.
I think providing you deliver that, but you could do options. And
You
things
could
like
do
that.
options.
Yeah.
You
As long
could
as you gave
do-
them the
yeah,
baseline of what they want. Yeah.
You could do that. In Quebec, it's easier to, but here I find they're more. And the crews also are used to. I'm sorry, the crews are used to going off the script.
Right.
Like we did these last 4 days, there was a lot of eventing going on. I mean, the writer kind of came up with a lot of stuff on the fly, not crazy stuff like a helicopter shot, but just kind of moody stuff. And you could find the crew going, "Oh, we're not in our comfort zone now. This wasn't in the script." And I'm like, "Man, but is it cool? Yeah. So let's try it." And you bring them along with you for the ride.
My favorite things are just to do with kids in particular is because I always want them to be on their toes, and they can get bored if you've done several takes. Is I always leave the camera rolling at the end of a scene, and they know that they have to improv something because the camera's rolling. So they're always, and I can see them
interesting.
like working out what it's going to be because the other rule is that it can't be the same thing. And we've gotten so many buttons of scenes by something brilliant that they've said, but I can feel them that they're processing throughout the scene as well, and then there's something great, and they're thinking about a little bit what their character's going to do later. So it's the best.